Welcome back to the Dinarr Daily, where we bring you the latest verified updates, breaking intel, and deep analysis from the world of global currencies, especially the ever-watched Iraqi dinar. Today's headline is a big one. Massive intel drop, exchange centers. Now active for Iraqi dinar. What's really happening? This story has the entire dinar community buzzing, and if what's being reported is even partly accurate, we could be witnessing a turning point in the IQD's modern history. So sit tight, because by the end of this report, you'll have a clear, grounded understanding of what's true, what's still rumor, and what it might all mean for you. Reports are flooding in, claiming that multiple exchange centers, both in the US and abroad, have quietly begun activation for the Iraqi dinar. Now, that's not your typical speculative talk. These reports point to real operational changes, system updates, extended hours, new staff hiring, and expanded communication within major currency networks. If confirmed, that means the long-dormant infrastructure for IQD conversion might finally be coming online in a structured, official way. A major development for holders who've been waiting patiently for a legitimate path to redemption. To understand the weight of this, we have to look at what life has been like for dinar holders up to this point. For years, most banks around the world have refused to touch the IQD, citing risk and regulation issues. Many holders were left in limbo, owning a currency that technically had value, but with no straightforward way to exchange it outside Iraq. Even U.S. state authorities, like the Washington Attorney General's office, have warned consumers that the dinar could only be redeemed within Iraq itself. That left millions holding physical notes with no real liquidity or conversion option. Now suddenly, we're hearing reports of exchange centers going live and banks updating systems to include IQD codes and processing functions. This apparent shift from restriction to readiness has people asking, is this the real deal, a structured rollout, or just isolated, unverified movements? Because if it's systemic, it could mean that the IQD is being reintroduced into mainstream financial networks, seems something that would mark a massive shift from years of regulatory caution and skepticism. Some insiders claim that exchange locations across major U.S. cities, including New York, Dallas, Miami, and Los Angeles, have started quietly testing systems and preparing for limited activity. Others mention new procedures being distributed to staff, as well as behind-the-scenes communication from upper-tier financial institutions about foreign currency handling, specifically naming the IQD. These are operational signals, the kind that don't happen unless something larger is coming down the line. But again, while the smoke is visible, we don't yet see the fire officially confirmed. If these activations are indeed happening, what would that mean for you as a dinar holder? At the simplest level, it means you'd finally have a legitimate, regulated way to verify and exchange your IQD through official channels, rather than relying on informal brokers or speculative dealers. That alone is a huge milestone, but it's vital to remember. Activation doesn't automatically mean a massive rate increase. Infrastructure and valuation are two separate layers. The system being ready for exchange doesn't guarantee a sudden windfall. It just opens the door for one. Let's imagine what an official exchange process could look like. First, centers would need to verify authenticity, checking the serial numbers, holograms, and security features of every note. Second, they'd log documentation for regulatory compliance, ensuring each transaction meets anti-money laundering and reporting standards. Finally, they'd perform the exchange at whatever rate the market or central authorities have established at that time. It's a structured process, not a speculative event, but it's one step closer to legitimacy for the IQD, and that's what makes this moment feel different. In the past, chatter about revaluation mostly revolved around hope and theory. This time, we're seeing infrastructure being prepared, systems upgraded, staff trained. Those aren't signs of rumor, they're signs of readiness. But readiness still isn't confirmation. Until we see public statements from central banks, ministries of finance, or large commercial banks acknowledging open exchange, we have to stay measured and realistic. On a macro level, whether or not the IQD gains traction will depend heavily on Iraq's overall stability, politically, economically, and financially. The value of a nation's currency reflects its strength, its reserves, and investor confidence. Iraq's oil sector remains its lifeblood, and as production and exports stabilize, confidence in the dinar could follow. Combine that with global financial institutions showing willingness to process IQD, and you get the foundation for something that might eventually grow beyond speculation. Interestingly, this isn't just a US development. Reports mention possible system activations or readiness checks in London, Frankfurt, Zurich, and even regional hubs like Dubai and Kuwait. That's what analysts call a global footprint. If true, that suggests coordination among multiple regions, which could indicate a planned, multi-phase rollout instead of small, isolated tests. Remember, for a currency to truly integrate into global exchange pipelines, it must have support from major liquidity centers across continents. So let's talk about timing. Sources suggest we might be in what they call Phase 1, meaning internal testing, training, and technical validation are underway. If that's accurate, the next phase would be limited exchanges by invitation or appointment to test throughput and compliance. Full public exchange could follow only after those systems prove stable and regulators sign off. Some projections point to late 2025 for broader access, but as always, that's speculation until officially confirmed. For Dinar holders, this means preparation is key. Ensure your currency is legitimate and well kept. Keep your purchase records, receipts, and proof of ownership. When the time comes, those details can protect you from delays or disputes. Also be patient. Even if exchange centers activate, there may be scheduling systems, verification lines, or caps on daily transactions. Infrastructure takes time to scale, and large volume conversions don't happen overnight. Another vital consideration: taxes and reporting. Large foreign currency exchanges can trigger capital gains liabilities or other reporting obligations, depending on where you live. Don't get caught off guard. If you plan to exchange, it's wise to consult a tax advisor familiar with foreign currency transactions. Documentation and compliance will protect you from future headaches and make sure your gains, if any, are properly reported. Now, let's talk risks. Even with credible reports of activation, scams can and do appear during these kinds of high-energy moments. Unscrupulous operators may try to lure holders into private exchanges or exclusive offers. Always confirm that the exchange center or institution you're dealing with is regulated and verifiable. If someone promises a guaranteed high rate or demands upfront payment, that's a red flag. Stay grounded. Excitement is good, but caution keeps you safe. A lot of people are asking, will the IQD's rate skyrocket once exchanges are active? The honest answer, maybe, but not automatically. Currency valuation is driven by economics, not excitement. It depends on demand, international reserves, trade flows, and investor confidence. If more banks and institutions are ready to process IQD, it increases accessibility, not necessarily value. That said, accessibility is the first step toward liquidity, and liquidity is what can eventually attract higher demand and stable pricing. Another common question is, what if I miss the initial exchange window? It's unlikely to be a one-day event. If legitimate centers open, they'll operate continuously, possibly by appointment. The key is to be informed and ready, but not panicked. The first wave may focus on larger holders, institutional clients, or pilot transactions. Retail holders will likely follow soon after, once systems and verification processes stabilize. If the reported timeline proves true and exchange centers expand globally, this could mark the most significant normalization step for the Iraqi dinar since its redenomination era. It would indicate a willingness from the international community to treat the IQD as a functional, tradable currency, not just a speculative asset. But again, this evolution will likely take time, perhaps years, to mature fully. From a global finance standpoint, this movement, if real, signals deeper integration for Iraq into international markets. It could mean improved transparency, better access to investment, and a stronger foundation for trade. And for everyday holders, it means the dream of legitimate exchange might finally be shifting from someday to soon. As we close out today's segment, let's recap. The reports of activated exchange centers for the Iraqi dinar are potentially groundbreaking, but still not officially confirmed. The infrastructure might be ready, but the full rollout, the rate changes, and the public access are still pending. This is progress, not payoff. It's an exciting signal, but one that demands patience, awareness, and level-headed preparation. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the Dinarr Daily, and turn on notifications because we'll be tracking this story day by day as it develops. In a landscape full of rumors, facts, and clarity matter most. Stay patient, stay alert, and most importantly, stay realistic. This is the Dinarr Daily, keeping